Palestinian government denounced a growing environmental and health crisis in Gaza due to the ongoing Israeli blockade. Haiti's new government, headed by businessman Didier Fils-Aime, was officially sworn in after a week of escalating violence in the capital. In the Philippines, more than 650,000 people were evacuated after Super Typhoon Man-Yi made landfall on Saturday night. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Israel assassinated Hezbollah media spokesman Mohammed Afif in an airstrike in downtown Beirut. Lebanese authorities confirmed the bombing that hit the Ba'ath Party office building where Afif was located. Citizens warned that the attack was unusual since most of the attacks are directed against the south of the Lebanese capital. For their part, the Israeli forces assured that the attacks against Lebanon will continue under the excuse of targeting the defense infrastructure of the Lebanese resistance. The Palestinian government denounced a growing environmental and health crisis in Gaza due to the ongoing Israeli blockade. Authorities said Israel's refusal to allow gas into the occupied territory forced many families to use the tree branches for cooking and heating. According to data, this situation seriously affected the vegetation cover, which represents the lungs of the city and a source for improving air quality, causing high pollution rates, aggravating health risks, especially for children and the elderly, exposing them to serious airborne diseases. Authorities call on the international community and humanitarian organizations to intervene urgently to mitigate the environmental and health damage. In Gaza, Israeli forces killed at least 70 Palestinians early this November 17th in a new attack against Rafah and Bureij refugee camp. Dozens of Palestinians were killed or injured following an Israeli airstrike on a residential building in the besieged town of Beit Lahaya, which, according to local sources, sheltered 70 displaced people. Initial reports suggest that the airstrike carried out by Israeli fighter jets caused extensive damage to the building, which collapsed, causing a significant number of casualties among innocent civilians, including children and women. The precise number of casualties is still unknown, as rescue teams are unable to reach the area of the attack due to the extensive destruction and continued Israeli airstrikes. And in Europe, several countries united in a massive demonstration to denounce the Israeli genocide against the citizens of the Gaza Strip. According to various media reports, thousands of people participated in rallies organized in Turkey, Norway, Austria, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, and Italy, condemning the crimes against humanity committed by Zionist troops in Palestine. Participants also demanded a ceasefire and the entry of humanitarian aid into the country. Furthermore, they also called for an end to double standards and the need to bring the Israeli occupation to justice for its massacres against the Palestinian people, especially against women and children. And the government of Abkhazia warned that attempts by opposition forces to resolve the political conflict in the country by force would only lead to destabilization and a humanitarian crisis. President Aslan Sania said that a violent solution as pursued by the opposition would lead to further destabilization, economic losses, and a humanitarian crisis. The president pointed out that a peaceful solution, on the contrary, will create conditions for restoring stability, attracting investments, and developing the country. On Friday, November 15th, protesters opposing the investment agreement with Russia seized the presidential administration building and parliament building in Sukhumi to demand the resignation of the president of the republic. And the Russian Defense Ministry reported that the armed forces of Ukraine lost more than 33,000 servicemen during the fighting in the Russian province of Kursk. The Defense Ministry said that during the incursion into Kursk, Kiev forces lost 231 tanks, 137 infantry fighting vehicles, 285 artillery weapons, and 40 multiple rocket launcher systems. Likewise, the Russian defense confirmed the strengthening of its positions within the framework of the special military operation in Ukraine. On their part, Ukrainian prisoners reported that troops on the front line are being neglected by the military commanders who do not provide sufficient information and abandon soldiers to be detained. And in Senegal, people were able to exercise their right to vote in more than 7,000 polling stations, which opened their doors this November 17th. More than 7 million voters in Senegal were called to the polls for early parliamentary elections, which predict a rivalry between the former President Macky Sall and the current Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. In a press release, the National Council of Audiovisual Regulation asked the media to show responsibility and professionalism to guarantee that the results broadcast are verified and come from authorized authorities. In the midst of a climate of violence, the Minister of Interior and Public Security, Jean-Baptiste, assured that the voting will be free and transparent. We have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Haiti's new government, headed by businessman Didier Fils-Aime, was officially sworn in this November 16 after a week of escalating violence in the capital due to armed gangs that plagued the country. The new head of government stated that there is no time to lose and that this government is taking office with a sense of urgency and gravity. The total number of ministers, 8 will retain the positions they held under the recently dismissed Prime Minister Gary Conil, while 10 will join the executive. The new head of government invited the ministers to fully appreciate the magnitude of the responsibilities incumbent upon them and consider that only the participation and contribution of all can provide effective and lasting responses.
Our mission is clear. We must give hope to our people by tackling with determination the major challenges that Haiti faces. Insecurity in all forms must be fought vigorously. Roads and major roads must once again become avenues of life and prosperity. And those who have had to abandon their homes must be able to return to their homes in complete safety.
In Haiti, residents of the Solino neighborhood gathered to improvise shelters in the area of Bourbon in a desperate effort to assemble a camp where they can settle. The International Organization for Migration denounced that the gang violence in Haiti's capital caused the displacement of more than 20,000 people in a matter of 4 days amid escalating violence. The crisis has also disrupted critical supply chains and isolated the city. In this context, the closure of air traffic following the shooting of 3 commercial aircraft, restrictions on access to the country's main seaport, and insecurity on the roads have left the metropolitan area in a state of paralysis, compounding the suffering of vulnerable communities.
Haiti must hold elections to elect a new government. I can't lie to you, I have no idea how the government will be able to organize the elections because violence is dominating everything. And the government doesn't seem to have the will to solve the problem of insecurity.
On Monday, November 18th, Nicaragua will be hosting the China, Latin America and the Caribbean Business Summit to promote economic ties between China and Latin America. The summit will carry on for 2 days under the slogan Joining Forces, Creating Opportunities, New Horizons for China, Latin America and the Caribbean. It will be held in Managua, the country's capital. Over 220 delegates representing 29 countries, along 500 Chinese and Nicaraguan business people are attending the summit. The government of Nicaragua is hosting this forum to strengthen the capacity to work in security and peace among the families of Latin America and the Caribbean. The President of China, Xi Jinping, declared on November 16 he's willing to maintain relations with the United States under the administration of Donald Trump on the right terms in a meeting with his counterpart Joe Biden in Peru. During the meeting, Chinese President Xi Jinping pointed out that contradictions and differences between two great countries like China and the U.S. are inevitable, but one side should not undermine the fundamental interests of the other. In that sense, Xi indicated that the One China principle and the 3 joint communiques of China and the U.S. are the political basis of the relations between the two countries. Xi Jinping pointed out that they should always be respected. He also referred that the Taiwan issue, democracy and human rights, China's way and system, and China's right to development are 4 red lines for China which must not be challenged or crossed.
es una gran revolución científica y tecnológica.
In a great scientific and technological revolution in full swing, neither dissociation or supply chain disruption is a solution. Only mutual and beneficial cooperation can lead to common development. The policy of small yard, high fence is not what a big country should pursue. Only openness and exchange can improve the welfare of mankind. As two big countries, China and the United States should keep in mind the interests of the whole world, and inject more certainty and positive energy into a turbulent world.
In this context, the President of China expressed his willingness and commitment to work together with the U.S. government.
China está dispuesta a trabajar con la nueva administración estadounidense.
China is willing to work with the new U.S. administration to maintain communication, expand cooperation, and manage differences, to strive for a stable transition of the Sino-U.S. relationship for the benefit of the two peoples.
On Sunday in Uruguay, the presidential candidates will be holding a debate that could influence the outcome of the upcoming elections to be held next Sunday, November 24th. The debate between the candidates of the Broad Front and of the National Party is scheduled for 90 minutes, divided in 3 blocks, and will be broadcast through radio and television. The candidates will be addressing human development issues such as housing, health, sports, culture, disability, and security. Campaign commands have agreed on the moderators to be 2 renowned local journalists. And in Argentina, the consumer price index with respect to the food sector has been growing for months at half the general inflation rate, a fact that the government celebrates, while all food and beverages items fall up to 25% in sales. The prices of the food basket after the devaluation ordered by Milei in December 2023 have reached unattainable values for the population. A report by the consulting firm PXQ, headed by the former Minister of Economy, Emmanuel Alvarez, shows that in Argentina, food prices in dollars are among the most expensive in the world. The report also compares the values of textiles and durable goods with what they cost in other countries, showing some pricing figures. In the United States, authorities arrested at least 9 citizens who expressed their rejection of man's anti-abortion demonstration. According to local media, the anti-abortion mobilization attracted counter-demonstrators dressed as clowns, who were arrested for disorderly conduct. The local police department also added that members of the counter-protesters were verbally assaulting participants of the men's march and exclaiming that such ideals were not welcome in the city. Afterwards, local authorities did not immediately make it clear when the arrested individuals would be brought to justice. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Japan, authorities registered a 6.2 magnitude earthquake off the southern coast in Koshima region. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center said the earthquake occurred at a depth of 10 kilometers, while its epicenter was located 151 kilometers south-southeast of the island of Koshima in the East China Sea. So far, no information has been released about possible casualties or material damage, nor has a tsunami warning been issued. Japan is part of the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most active volcanic and seismic areas where 90% of all earthquakes take place. In the Philippines, more than 650,000 people were evacuated after Super Typhoon Man-Yi made landfall on Saturday night. The Super Typhoon hit the island municipality of Catanduanes, destroying houses and uprooting trees. This Sunday, the Super Typhoon made landfall in the northern province of Aurora at 3:20 p.m. local time, with sustained winds of up to 185 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 230 kilometers per hour. It's estimated that Man-Yi could impact Luzon, the country's most populous island and economic powerhouse, crossing north of Manila and moving into the South China Sea by Monday. In a new report, the president of Honduras, Xiomara Castro, informed that 74 municipalities in the country were directly impacted by the tropical storm Sara, and more than 60,000 people were affected. The president emphasized that the rains, floods, and overflowing rivers caused by Sara led significant damage. In this sense, 63,920 people are in a condition of victims, while 3,720 are in shelters. Castro's government, SINAGER, COPECO, and the Secretary of Risk Management and National Contingencies are currently working to save lives and provide protection to the population most exposed to damage and which has not yet been reached due to the severity of the weather conditions. In India on Sunday, thousands of pilgrims gathered at the Ganges River to participate in their purification ritual that marks the beginning of the second half of the month of November. Hindu faithful purify themselves in the sacred waters of the Mother Ganges River to cleanse their souls and to receive blessings. According to the tradition, people immerse themselves in the waters of the river and drink from it, despite it being highly polluted. People also bring offerings and throw ashes into the river. The Ganges is one of the most important rivers in Asia for its length and its cultural and religious importance. However, its waters are highly contaminated by the industry, sewage, and the cremation of humans and animals in its waters. And in India, the resurgence of retro records among music fans reflects a trend of skyrocketing vinyl sales from the United States to Britain and Brazil. The retro format has been embraced by retailers such as Walmart and presence around the world that produced these discs were shot through with celebrities such as Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, and Harry Styles. In India, this resurgence is much smaller, but younger fans are joining the trend in an industry that Sajid Pillai, founder and director of a press in Mumbai, says is challenging in a slowly growing market. This turntable sound system and 10 records cost fans between $600 and $1,180, which at the low end is more than double the average monthly salary. But for those who can afford it, the old system offers a new experience.
There is a particular kind of category of people who they still love, they're collectors, and then I realized all across the globe it's really picking up, and we wanted to started a vinyl record plant in 2015, but then it was a very tough decision. People around us discouraged, you're going to spend a lot of money, burn your money, so don't take that risk. It needs a lot of old hands to run because the technology is pretty old.
And I think a lot of people who sort of go down this route eventually realize that records do sound better. And another thing for me that specifically separates records from everything else is that records don't have a lot of fatigue, which means that ear fatigue. What that means is that I can listen to records for 8 hours straight and feel no reason to shut off my system. Whereas if I'm streaming something via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, after 45 minutes, maybe an hour, I need to tone down.
We have come to the end of this news brief.